First story, the last mile before midnight. It was close to midnight when I left Amarillo, heading east on Highway 87. The sky was cloudless, the moon sharp and silver, throwing long shadows across the empty road. My old Ford rumbled steadily, headlights cutting through the darkness, and the radio played some faint country tune that barely reached my ears. I wasn't tired exactly, but there was that strange feeling in my gut, like I was driving through a place the world had forgotten. No other cars for miles, no gas stations, no lights, just the black ribbon of asphalt and the whisper of wind across the plains. That's when I saw her. She was standing on the shoulder, just ahead in the glare of my high beams, tall, slender, in a pale dress that looked out of place against the dusty road. Her hair was long and dark, clinging to her face like wet strands. She didn't move, didn't flinch at the oncoming light, just stood there, watching me. I slowed down. Maybe it was instinct, maybe it was guilt. Out here, someone walking alone at night could be in real trouble. As I got closer, I saw she wasn't wearing shoes. Her bare feet were chalk white, and the hem of her dress was dirty, frayed, like she'd been walking for miles. I rolled down the window just a crack. "Ma'am, you okay?" She tilted her head slightly. Her eyes caught the light, and for a split second, I thought I saw something wrong in them. Not fear, not relief, but something darker. Still, I pulled over. "Where you headed?" I asked, leaning toward the passenger seat. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper. "Just down the road." It wasn't much of an answer, but I unlocked the door. She climbed in without hesitation, the air around her suddenly colder, and the faint smell of damp earth drifting into the cab. We drove in silence for a while. I kept glancing at her out of the corner of my eye, but she was staring straight ahead, hands folded neatly in her lap. My headlights swept across the fields and fences, but there was nothing out there. No houses, no barns, no signs of life. "Where exactly are you going?" I tried again. Her lips curled into a faint smile. "Home." Something about the way she said it made my skin crawl. After a few minutes, I noticed something strange. The clock on the dashboard had frozen. It read 11:59, but I'd been driving at least 10 minutes since I picked her up. The road ahead seemed endless, stretching forward without a single turn or intersection. I felt the steering wheel vibrate slightly under my grip, though the pavement was smooth. Then she spoke again, voice low, almost like she was talking to herself. "He left me there, said he'd be right back, but he never came." Her words made the hair on my arms stand up. I swallowed. "Who left you?" Her head turned slowly toward me. Her face was pale, her eyes glassy. "You did." I felt my foot slam on the brake without thinking. The truck skidded to a stop, tires screaming in the empty night. My heart was pounding in my ears. "What the hell are you talking about?" But the passenger seat was empty. The cold was gone, the smell of damp earth fading. The clock ticked forward to midnight. I sat there, shaking, trying to breathe. Finally, I put the truck back in gear and started driving again. The road seemed different now, narrower, the fences twisted, the fields shrouded in mist. Up ahead, in the distance, a figure stood on the shoulder of the road. Same pale dress, same dark hair, waiting. I pressed harder on the gas. The figure didn't move, didn't step aside. My headlights swept over her, and she was suddenly right beside my window, face inches from the glass, lips forming words I couldn't hear. I screamed and swerved, the truck sliding into the ditch. The engine died. The darkness closed in. The last thing I saw before everything went black was her standing in front of the truck, smiling, and holding something in her hand. A set of old, rusted car keys. When I woke up, I was sitting in the driver's seat again, engine running, radio crackling. The road behind me was empty, but the passenger seat wasn't. She was there, closer now, leaning toward me, whispering something that sounded like a laugh. And the clock was stuck at 11:59. Second story, the thing that walked under the streetlights. It was close to midnight when we finally left Jake's apartment in downtown Dallas. The streets were nearly empty, just the occasional drunk stumbling out of a bar or a lone car passing every few minutes. The city had that eerie quiet it gets late at night, when the traffic lights keep changing for no one, and the air feels heavier than it should. I was driving my old Ford down Elm Street. Then we have Jake in the passenger seat, both of us still talking about the movie we just watched. We had the windows slightly cracked, and the cool night air carried the faint hum of the city. The thing about Dallas at night is, it's never completely dark. The streetlights cast these yellow pools of light that break the shadows into fragments. You see patches of things, not the whole picture. That's probably why, at first, I thought what I saw was just a trick of the light. We were passing through an older part of town, rows of shuttered stores, graffiti on brick walls, the kind of place where you avoid eye contact with strangers during the day. That's when I noticed something ahead, standing under one of the flickering lamps. It was tall, too tall for a person, and hunched in a way that made my stomach twist. The way its shadow bent didn't match its shape, like it wasn't entirely connected to the ground. Jake saw it too. "What the hell is that?" he whispered. I slowed down, trying to get a better look. The thing moved, but it didn't step forward or back. It slid sideways, as if the darkness itself carried it. Its skin, or what I thought was skin, looked pale and damp, glistening under the light like something pulled from deep water. Long, bony arms dangled almost to its knees, and its head, God, its head was wrong. Too narrow, too long, and the way it tilted as we approached made it look like it was studying us. I felt my chest tighten. My instincts screamed, "Don't stop," but my foot stayed on the brake without me realizing. We were just there, hanging in that moment. Then it smiled, not with lips. There were no lips, just rows of small, sharp teeth that seemed to keep going far deeper into its mouth than they should have. My stomach lurched, and before I could react, the thing turned. It walked, not in a human way, but with a jerking, puppet-like gait, right into the middle of the street. I floored the gas, swerving hard to avoid it, tires screeching against the asphalt. Jake shouted something I couldn't hear over the roar of the engine. I didn't dare look in the mirrors. My hands gripped the wheel so tight, I thought my bones would crack. We sped for several blocks before Jake finally said, "Man, it's still behind us." I snapped my eyes to the rearview mirror, and he was right. Under every streetlight, just as we passed, the thing would appear again. Never running, never chasing. Just waiting under the next pool of light, as if the darkness between was its own personal highway. I blew through red lights, my heart hammering so hard I could hear it in my ears. No matter how far we drove, no matter how many turns I took, it was always there, waiting, watching. We finally reached the interstate, thinking maybe if we left the city behind, it would lose interest. The lights thinned out, and for a moment I thought we were free. Jake was breathing heavily, whispering to himself. I was about to tell him we were okay when there it was. Standing under a lone highway lamp, its long arms swaying, that impossible mouth stretched into its awful, endless grin. I didn't slow down. I didn't even think. But as we passed, I caught something in its black, glistening eyes. Recognition. Like it knew me. Like it was waiting for me. And now, days later, I've realized something that's keeping me awake every night. Every time I drive after dark, no matter the street, no matter the city, under every streetlight I pass, I see it. Still smiling, still waiting. And I know, one night, I won't be able to drive fast enough. Third story, the Hollow Mile. I never used to fear driving at night. In fact, there was something comforting about the hum of the tires against the pavement, the way the headlights carved a narrow, private tunnel through the dark. But that night, that drive, it changed me. It was late, close to midnight, when I left Amarillo, Texas, heading east toward Shamrock. The road stretched on forever, flat and empty. Only the faint glow of the dash clock and the occasional green highway sign breaking the monotony. My phone was dead, and I didn't have a charger, so the radio was my only companion, cycling between static and faint, ghostly country songs. About 30 miles out, the air changed. I can't explain it, but it was like the world pressed down, heavier, quieter. Even the wind that had been nudging my car all night was suddenly gone. My headlights cut through nothing but stillness, and I swear the darkness felt thicker somehow. That's when I saw it. At first, I thought it was a person, tall, standing right at the shoulder of the road. My stomach tightened, and my foot eased off the gas. The figure didn't move. It just stood there. As my headlights reached it, I realized this wasn't a person. Its legs were too long, unnaturally long, with joints that bent the wrong way. Its arms dangled almost to the ground, that fingers twitching like it was plucking invisible strings. And its head, God, it was tilted so far to the side I thought its neck had snapped. I swerved slightly to avoid it, my heart hammering, but I couldn't stop myself from glancing in the rearview mirror. That's when my blood ran cold. It was in the middle of the road now, directly behind me. I pressed harder on the gas, my breath catching in my throat. The speedometer crept higher. 80, 85, 90. My tires hissed over the asphalt, but when I looked again, I was closer. No running, no walking, just there. Every time I blinked, it seemed to have eaten up more distance. I told myself I was hallucinating, that I was tired. But then I saw its mouth. It wasn't a mouth. It was a vertical slit running from chin to forehead, peeling open to reveal nothing, just blackness. And even though I couldn't hear it, I felt something pulling at me, like my thoughts were being dragged toward that darkness. Panic flooded me. I gripped the wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. My headlights flashed over a sign, Hollow Mile, 1 mile. I'd driven this route before, but I didn't remember any place called Hollow Mile. The road curved slightly, leading into a stretch where the asphalt looked older, cracked and faded. My ears popped, like I'd driven into higher elevation, and every hair on my arms stood on end. That's when the lights went out. Not the streetlights, there were none, but my headlights. One moment the road was there. The next, it was just black, endless black. I slammed my brakes, heart pounding, but my car kept rolling forward as though the ground itself pulled it. I could see it now, standing directly in front of me. Not in the beam of my headlights, but somehow visible in the dark. The slit in its head widened, and I felt my memories slipping, pieces of my life peeling away. I couldn't remember where I was coming from, couldn't remember who I'd been talking to earlier that day. Then, a sudden thought, if I let it take all of me, there'd be nothing left. I jerked the wheel hard and the car skidded sideways, tires screaming. My lights blinked back on for a split second, revealing the thing's legs stretching, growing, to follow. I hit the gas again, engine roaring, and tore down the road without looking back. I don't remember the next few miles. I only know that when I came to, I was parked outside a diner in Shamrock, my hands shaking, the dashboard clock reading 3:47 a.m. I stumbled inside, desperate for light, for noise, for anything human. The waitress looked at me strangely when I asked if she knew where Hollow Mile was. She said there was no such place out there. But when I went back to my car, there was something wedged under the windshield wiper. A green highway sign, bent, rusted. It read, Hollow Mile, 1 mile. And in the glass of my driver's side mirror, I swear I saw it standing there, still waiting. Fourth story, mile marker of shadows. I have been a long-haul trucker for over 15 years, and I thought I had seen everything the road could throw at me. Wrecks, storms, even a guy waving a machete outside a rest stop in Louisiana at 3 in the morning. But that night on Highway 93, somewhere between Abilene and Lubbock, Texas, I learned there are things out here that do not belong to any map or human understanding. It was close to midnight, my dashboard clock reading 11:58, when I rolled past mile marker 127. The CB had been dead silent for hours. No other truckers talking, no static, just the hum of my engine and the occasional howl of wind rattling against the trailer. Out here, the land flattens into an endless black sea, and the stars almost feel too close, like they're watching. I remember thinking how the road looked darker than usual, my headlights barely cutting 20 feet ahead before being swallowed whole by the night. I had just shifted into the left lane to pass an old pickup crawling along when something darted across the highway. At first, I thought it was a deer, until it stood up on 2 legs halfway across. It was thin, too thin. Its arms were long enough that its hands nearly brushed the asphalt. My high beams caught its skin, slick and pale like something pulled from deep water. It stopped right in my lane, head jerking in quick, unnatural angles, then bolted into the field before I could even touch the horn. I pulled over hard, tires screeching, my hands gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles went white. The pickup I'd been passing didn't slow, didn't even seem to notice. I sat there for a moment, heart hammering, the empty radio mocking me with its silence. I told myself I'd been driving too long. That fatigue was making shapes out of shadows. I pressed on. About 15 miles later, I saw it again. Only this time, it wasn't alone. There were 3 of them, standing by the shoulder near a cluster of scrub brush, their bodies almost blending with the dark. They didn't move when my headlights washed over them. They just stood there, heads cocked to the side, like they were studying me. Something in my gut told me not to stop, so I pushed the accelerator, my Peterbilt groaning as it gained speed. But as I passed, I swear I saw their mouths, thin slits I hadn't noticed before, stretch wide. Not in a smile, wider, too wide for a human face. I didn't check my mirrors. By the time I hit a small service station on the outskirts of Snyder, I was shaking so bad I could barely swipe my card at the pump. The clerk inside, a guy named Daniel with tired eyes, asked if I was okay. I told him what I'd seen. His face went pale, and he glanced toward the dark road outside. "You passed mile marker 127, he asked. I nodded. He didn't say anything for a long moment. Then, in a low voice, he said, "Don't stop if you see them again. Don't even slow down." I wanted to press him, but another customer walked in, and Daniel just turned away. I fueled up, grabbed a coffee, and got back on the highway. I made it another 30 miles before the fog rolled in. Out here, fog doesn't just hang, it swallows. My headlights bounced back at me, making the road vanish into a pale blur. I slowed to 45, gripping the wheel like a lifeline. That's when I saw the shapes ahead. Not 3 this time, not even 5. Dozens. They were standing across both lanes, stretching into the fields on either side, their pale skin almost glowing against the fog. My breath caught in my throat. Every instinct screamed at me to turn around, but the road behind was just as blind, and my trailer made U-turns impossible. I honked, the blast cutting through the night, but they didn't move. Instead, they began to walk toward me. Slow, purposeful. I floored it. The truck roared forward, and for a moment, I thought I could plow through. Until the first one leapt. It landed on the hood, its face slamming against the windshield, mouth open so wide I could see the tendons stretching inside. Its eyes were black pits, reflecting nothing. I swerved hard, throwing it off, but more shapes rushed in from the sides. My trailer rocked violently as something slammed against it. I could hear claws, or something like claws, scraping metal. I don't know how I made it out. I remember the sound of my engine screaming, the fog thinning, and suddenly the road ahead was empty again. I drove until sunrise, not daring to stop. When I finally pulled into a rest area near Amarillo, my truck was covered in long, deep scratches. The hood was dented, and on the driver's side mirror, hanging by what looked like a strip of sinew, was a single, pale finger. I left it there. And I've never driven Highway 93 at night again. Because out there past mile marker 127, the road isn't just for the living. And whatever those things are, they're still waiting. 5th Story whispers beyond the cornfield. I've driven through plenty of small Texas towns at night, the kind of places where the gas station shuts down at 8, the main street's just a strip of faded storefronts, and the air smells faintly of dust and diesel. But that night in Hollow Creek, it was different. I knew it before I even passed the old wooden sign that leaned sideways at the edge of the road, its paint chipped away, the letters barely legible. It was late, past midnight. The moon hung low, pale and swollen, and the headlights of my Chevy cut through the dark like a knife through damp cloth. The 2-lane road ahead was empty, hemmed in by tall, dead corn stalks swaying in the warm wind. I had the windows cracked just enough to let in the smell of the fields. About 10 miles before Hollow Creek, I caught movement in the corner of my eye. Something ran along the ditch beside the road. At first, I thought it was a coyote, but it was too fast, too smooth, and the shape of it, tall, impossibly thin, made my stomach twist. I slowed, the hum of the engine dropping low. The figure darted ahead, then vanished into the corn. I didn't stop. The only thing worse than seeing something strange on the road is stopping to find out what it was. Still, the image clung to me. It wasn't just the shape, it was the way it moved. Not like an animal, not like a person, but something in between. A mile later, my headlights caught it again. This time, it was standing right on the shoulder, still as a fence post, facing away from me. I tapped the horn once. No reaction. I rolled past slow, real slow, and in the beam of the lights, I saw its skin. It wasn't skin. It looked like stretched, pale fabric, pulled so tight over the bones you could see every sharp angle beneath. Its head was bald, too narrow, and when it finally turned to look at me, its eyes were like two wet pits in the dark. I pressed the gas hard. The speedometer climbed. The cornfields blurred by. But then the tapping began. At first, I thought it was something loose in the truck bed, a toolbox shifting, a bungee cord hitting the side, but it got faster, louder, and it was coming from the driver's side window. I risked a glance. It was running beside me, that long skeletal frame keeping pace with my truck at 50 miles an hour. Its head was bent down low, those pit-like eyes locked on me, and I swear, I could hear it whispering over the roar of the wind. Not words, not anything human, just this low, hissing sound that made my spine lock. I floored it. 60, 70. It kept up. The corn ended. Now it was just open pasture on both sides. The yellow lines on the road blurred, my hands gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles ached. Then, just like that, it was gone. I drove another 5 miles before I even let myself breathe. The old radio crackled with static, the kind that makes your skin prickle, but I didn't dare touch it. By the time I reached Hollow Creek, the streets were empty. No lights, no cars. Even the gas station was dark. I stopped at the only intersection, the red light hanging there like a single drop of blood in the night. And that's when I saw it again, standing under the traffic light, closer this time. Its head tilted slightly, as if listening for something, or deciding. The red light turned green. I didn't move. The thing stepped off the curb, its long arms swinging just enough for me to see the tips of its fingers. Too sharp, too pointed to be nails, catch the glow of the traffic light. I slammed the truck into reverse, spun it around, and tore out of Hollow Creek the way I'd come. I drove until the sun came up, until I saw other cars again, until my heartbeat stopped pounding in my ears. But there's one thing I can't shake. When I got home and washed the truck the next morning, I found marks on the driver's side door. 4 long, curved scratches. And they weren't made by anything human.